My friends, today is one of the most serious days since this conflict resumed, and I'll start here with the statement that changes the rules of the game. President Trump has just announced a new equation against Iran. He published this in no uncertain terms. Carefully read what he wrote, folks. From now on, every time the Islamic Republic of Iran fires at a ship in the Strait of Hormuz, whether it's with a missile, rocket, drone, or any other means, the United States will strike and destroy a bridge or a power plant, even near the capital, Tehran, or inside the capital. End quote. He just announced this, folks. Did you read it? If you need to listen again, do so. This is serious. A ship is hit in the strait, then a bridge or power plant falls in Iran. This isn't just any threat from Trump. He's never done it like this before. It's a price list. The right time has come to do this, right? Actually, I would raise it to something more, folks. One Iranian leader for each ship. One leader for each ship instead of a power plant. But that's Trump. And notice where he put the address inside Tehran. In other words, from now on, every Iranian shot at sea has a marked cost on the country's own civil infrastructure. And the response from the Iranian side came quickly, folks. And it's on the same scale as Trump's threat. Professor Mohammad Marandi, who is part of Iran's negotiation team, responded right after. Okay, he posted right there under Trump's post and wrote the following. So it's time to evacuate Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, and apparently Oman as well. Are you getting the message here? He's saying that if bridges and power plants in Iran are destroyed, Iran will take down the infrastructure of all its Gulf neighbors. He didn't threaten the United States directly. He threatened the Arab countries who are right in the middle of this war. And this is exactly the logic I've been showing you here for a long time. Iran makes its neighbors pay the price it can't collect directly from Washington, from the United States. So, keep this equation in mind because it explains everything you're going to see here today in our live stream. Local time is 5:22 p.m. I couldn't do a live earlier today, guys. I couldn't. There was no way to do it, but I'm here bringing you all the information up to now. And there was one more thing, guys. About more or less an hour and a half ago, Iranian missiles were fired at Jordan once again, right there on our southern border, near Eilat. And soon I'll go into detail here so you can understand exactly why and, well, why, right? What's the reason, of course, that Jordan has become such an important target for the Iranian regime? But for you to understand the magnitude of today, I need to go back a few hours to the early hours of this morning. For the first time since this round started again, American strikes reached Tehran, inside the capital of Iran. Iranian air defense systems fired several times into the sky over Tehran during the early morning, and the residents themselves filmed everything from their windows. Some of the footage you're seeing now. This is actually from early this morning in Israel, around 2:30. It breaks the silent understanding that existed until yesterday. The capital was out of the game, 11th consecutive night of fire, and the game has escalated. And there's still a third piece today, because today a mountain, once again that mountain, has definitely become the center of this story. A mountain with a strange name, Pickaxe Mountain. A little over 200 kilometers south of Tehran, which has never been touched in any round of this conflict. And it's not new, folks. For those who have been following the channel for a while, this mountain is nothing new. It's been talked about for a long time, even here on the channel. The new thing is that now it was Trump himself who pointed there in public and warned that it's the next target. And the regime responded that if that happens, the confrontation will get out of control. They're going to fire in all directions. Amidst this, there's a small diplomatic move involving Saudi Arabia that few are linking to everything else, which I'll show you. So stay with me, because the new equation, the capital, the mountain, and the Saudi Arabia card are pieces of the same move. I'm going to connect one to the other directly from Israel, where it all happens. But before I start this live, go ahead and hit the like button, guys. Give it a thumbs up, because that really helps the channel deliver this video to other people who don't even know the channel, to break out of this bubble. And before I lay out today's framework piece by piece so you can understand it, yesterday I explained the strategy of blindness. Do you remember? Iran turning off the radars and alert systems in the region to make Israel and the Americans see less and less. And today I'm bringing you proof that what I said was true and the American response to it, okay? Because today both sides fought over exactly the same thing, the radars. Iran kept shutting down its neighbors' radars, and the Americans did something smart to force Iran's radars to turn on. You'll soon understand what happened over there during the night. Let's start with what happened during the night, right? Because it was very different from all the previous 10 nights. US Central Command confirmed it was the 11th straight night and listed the targets. Command centers, naval capability, airplane hangars, drone depots, and military logistics infrastructure. And within that list, targets located inside the capital city of Tehran itself. In the northwest, more than 15 strikes in the Tabriz and Omia region, where the so called missile cities are located. In the west, an airbase in the Hamadan region. And in the province of Khuzestan, heavy fire in Barbaran, which is also a new location. And in the south, the usual corridor, Bandar Abbas and Bushehr over there in the Strait of Hormuz. Just look at the range, folks. North, west, center, and south, all during the early morning, all in one night. This time, no region was left out, not a single one without a visit from the US Air Force. And here's a number for you too, just to give you an idea of the scale of all this. Those who add up these rounds day by day estimate that in 11 days, there have already been more than 1,500 targets, folks. 1,500 strikes against Iran. That's a lot, folks. Also, pay attention to another important detail. Even with all this volume, neither side has really turned the tables so far. The game always remains methodical, calculated, each side measuring the next step, okay? So it's still not an all-out declared war against Iran. Now here's the clever detail I promised you this morning. An analyst from the Emirates examined the images and pointed out the following. Minutes before the main attack, swarms of small drones were released toward Tehran, that is, by the US Army. Just think about what this really causes, folks. A swarm of drones. The air defense of the capital is forced to fire at the swarms. Those were the images that appeared at the beginning of our live stream. And the moment it fires, it gives itself away, it reveals its location. And here you need to understand how an air defense system works from the inside, because this is the key to everything that happened yesterday. An anti-aircraft battery doesn't work alone. It's blind without the radar. It needs a radar right next to it or close by. The radar is what finds the target in the sky and tells the battery where to shoot, because it's the middle of the night and no one can see anything at all. And the radar can only see in one way, by emitting a signal. It sends waves into the sky and listens to what comes back. In other words, to see, it has to speak, and whoever speaks gives away their location. Because the Americans use planes and satellites packed with sensors that do exactly that. They listen to these emissions, measure where they came from, and mark the spot on the map. In other words, they find out where all these radars and the entire anti-aircraft battery are located. While the radar is off, it's invisible and safe. The second it turns on to track a drone, it shouts out its own location. And the battery that fires gives itself away even more. The flash, the smoke, and the trajectory of the shot show exactly where it came from. And now put it all together. What are the swarms of cheap drones for? They're bait. The defense turned on the radar and fired to shoot down those drones. And at that moment, it gave away the location of every part of that system. And then with the positions marked, real fire comes down on those batteries the regime still has left. Remember, time has passed, right? Since the last round, they still have anti-aircraft batteries because more came from elsewhere. And the analyst from the Emirates himself raised a hypothesis, which also caught attention, that this method would have an Israeli signature, because it resembles the way Israel operates in this type of mission. And here I prefer again to tell you guys the following. This is his interpretation, okay? It's not a confirmation. No one in Israel has claimed responsibility for this, for participating in this type of mission yesterday at dawn there in Iran. No one has claimed it. What can be stated with certainty is the effect. Whoever fired first forced the Iranian defense to reveal itself. They sent the drones, fired at the drones, cheap and small drones, and they revealed themselves, right? They showed their locations. And look, here's confirmation coming from the Iranian side itself. The regime's media reported that they shot down some drones over Tehran last night. Small drones. In other words, they themselves admit that there were drones flying over the capital. The analyst didn't invent the story about the swarms. Notice the symmetry, reflecting the current moment. Iran has spent days shutting down the region's radars to blind the other side, as we discussed here a few days ago. And the Americans respond by forcing Iran's radars to turn on so they can see where they are. An entire dispute is being fought over each side's radars. And speaking of the blinding strategy, it hasn't stopped either, guys. On the contrary, that same night, the Revolutionary Guard claimed another round against the eyes of the region. They claim to have hit radar and early warning systems again in Kuwait, near a base used by the Americans and on an island off the coast. As always, it's their claim without independent confirmation. You already know my filter on this stuff, right? But pay attention to what came from the American side, because that is confirmation of the theory. An American network published a hard-hitting report saying the following: Iranian projectiles are managing to get through the defenses. The base in Jordan, where the American soldiers lost their lives, had been hit twice in the previous 48 hours. Twice before the third time, right? Now there's a fourth. I already brought this up because there likely wasn't a radar, which is why the base sirens didn't go off. And the report recorded the following: that it wasn't an isolated case, that getting through is the pattern. And yesterday I explained to you that without the radar network, the alarm goes off at the last minute or doesn't even go off at all. And today the American press is describing exactly that. It's happening in real time. The blindness isn't just a theory I came up with. It's showing up in their news over there in the United States as well. And now let's get to the name everyone's talking about today, that mountain. It's located in the province of Isfahan. I brought it here. I managed to locate it on Google Maps. Anyone can find it. Let me put it up here so we can look at it together. Let me switch maps. I'll put this one up. Look, just a second. The so-called Pickaxe Mountain, right, guys? Look here. I marked it here. First here, let's put it here in the Natanz complex. See here? This complex here. Look. This is the so-called mountain, guys. Check out the entrances. Okay? This would be, you can see it on Google Maps, guys. There's no mystery at all, okay? This is right next to it. It's in the province of Isfahan, right next to the Natanz complex. See here, look, Natanz is down here. For those who don't know, it's also another nuclear complex. The one you already know from the nuclear program, right? From the Iranian nuclear program. The name of this place here is known as Pickaxe Mountain. That's the direct translation from Persian. And why did it become the center of the news coverage right now? First, because the Wall Street Journal published, citing American and Israeli officials, that Israeli intelligence assessed that Iran moved thousands of centrifuges inside this mountain. Pay close attention. Here, look, here, okay? A centrifuge is the machine that enriches uranium, is the most sensitive equipment in the nuclear program. And according to the information, this change happened after that 12-day conflict back in 2025 last year, folks. Folks, when the known facilities were hit, all of those were hit except for this location. In other words, they struck the known sites and the regime responded by hiding what was left inside this mountain. And what is this mountain, folks? Satellite image analysis indicates a complex dug more than 110 meters deep into the rock. Some say 100 meters and others say 110. Here are the entrances to this complex. Nothing secret about it, right? I've known about this for a while. This place is deeper and more protected than that Fordo facility, which was already considered the most fortified in the country. And there's also a detail here that says it all. This mountain has never been hit, not in last year's conflict and not in this current round either. It still hasn't been hit. Up until the time this video was recorded, 5:33 in the afternoon local time here in the Middle East, Israel time, it's the only major site of the nuclear program that has remained untouched until today. And here I want to give you my opinion, and it's just mine, okay? You might even disagree. But notice something. Until yesterday, almost no one talked about this mountain. It was there, being dug year after year in silence. So, I believe this isn't the only mountain. If the regime managed to hide an entire mountain of this size from the world, it's very likely that there are others. Still without a name, still without a headline in the Wall Street Journal or the New York Post, right? They haven't come out yet. So, no one has really paid attention to this place yet. For anyone who wants to locate it, I'll put the coordinates here, guys. It's important, right? The coordinates down here. Look, write them down above my head. Just type this into Google Maps and you'll be able to find it too. Okay, along with me, you can follow this in real time. No problem at all, right? In real time. Like when these images get updated, Google updates them from time to time. These images here are from Natanz, and right next to it is this mountain. And that's it, guys, really. What worries me is if there are other mountains like this one. It's not about a vault that's already been found, it's about the vault that hasn't shown up on the map yet. And let me tell you something. Let me put the images back here for us. There's also an image here among these that I put in Portuguese. One made with artificial intelligence based on the data we have about this mountain. What's underneath it, okay? But let me tell you, these images are from Eilat, from today. And let me tell you where this mountain came from, because the story explains the paranoia behind all this. In 2020, a centrifuge factory over there in Natanz, that one next door, was blown up in an act of sabotage that the whole world, including Iran, attributed to Israel. Okay, they went there, sabotaged it, and made it explode. The regime's response was to start digging. At the time, they announced that they had built a bigger and more modern facility in the heart of a mountain right next door. And since then, they've spent about 6 years digging, and that's the mountain that's at the center of everything today. And look at the technical problem, because it's the key to this whole discussion. Under more than maybe 100 or 110 meters of rock, not even the heaviest bunker-busting munitions in the American arsenal are guaranteed to reach down there. Guys, it's really, really difficult. And it's precisely because of this depth that the mountain has become a technical headache for the United States and for Israel as well. In a moment, I'll show you a scene in the US Senate where this was also made very clear. When they asked Trump if he would require international inspectors inside those tunnels before any new agreement, he answered yes, absolutely, and said the following: "We have many eyes on that mountain, including from up in space." In other words, they monitor, but watching from the outside is not the same as knowing what's going on inside, right? And he says we have lots of eyes overhead from above. That's what he's saying. In other words, there are people here on earth also evaluating that mountain up close. Look here. This would be what's underneath that mountain, okay? I got this from a publication. From an Iranian channel, I just put this into Portuguese and translated it. There may be some Portuguese errors since AI did it, but the drawing is unchanged. This is the mountain and what would be underneath it, according to this post that was made on an Iranian opposition channel. It's a huge place, guys, really huge, okay? Huge. So they monitor it, but monitoring from the outside, like he's saying, isn't the same as knowing what's going on inside. And why is this so important? You must be wondering. The explanation, the 30-second explanation for you who are just joining now: the centrifuge is the machine that enriches uranium. The more it enriches, the closer the material gets to weapons grade level. Without a centrifuge, there's no way to make a weapon. With thousands of them hidden inside a mountain that no one can inspect, there's an open question that keeps the whole world up at night. That's the question that lives inside Pickaxe Mountain. That's its name. That's the name of the mountain. That's the literal translation, folks. Pickaxe Mountain. And now, what's changed from yesterday to today is that Trump talked about it in public, okay? It's the first time he's mentioned it. He said that the new facility built there is a target and that the Americans will deal with it soon. And now comes that guy, actually that scene, in the US Senate that I promised you, and it sums up how big this gamble is. A senator asked Peter Hegseth in one of those hearings where they questioned the other guy, right? Basically, it's an investigation. They asked him, the United States Secretary of Defense, do we have the capability to destroy everything that's under that mountain in Iran? They asked Peter, and just look at his answer. He said the following, quote, "Most of our capabilities are classified, Senator. But if there's anyone in the world capable of reaching any point on the planet, it's the American military." To sum up here, folks, he didn't say yes, he didn't say no. He said, we can reach any point on the planet. But the regime's response came on the same day he spoke, and that's also the red line of the week. Now, Trump has drawn another red line, right? Trump said that any attack on a ship will be met with an attack on a power plant or a bridge, and now Iran has also drawn its own red line. The Iranian military command responsible for the defense of the territory issued a formal statement. The statement says that if the Americans hit the country's nuclear facilities and sensitive sites, this will be treated as an escalation of confrontation in the region. And in that case, all interests of the United States, their allies, and the countries that support them will immediately become targets. Translating from the language of official statements to plain English, the mountain is the trigger. If the fire reaches it, the regime promises to spread the blaze throughout the entire region. That's why I said at the start, today this mountain has moved to the center of the story. Because it's there that it will be decided whether this will move toward the negotiating table or toward a regional explosion, a war much bigger than what we're seeing now. And then you ask me, but does Iran have the ability to set the whole Middle East on fire, right? Of course it does, guys. Of course it does. And it's not that hard to do, okay? They still have a lot there, a lot of things. All that Israel and the United States have done during these 2 years, 2025, the 12-day war, the 40-day war, and this 11-day war, I think, in my opinion, not even half of what Iran has was destroyed. Okay? That's just my opinion. That's why the best way to end this problem is by overthrowing the regime and not just trying to reduce its capabilities. Reducing capabilities, reducing manufacturing capacity is not enough because they'll just go and make it again. You need to overthrow the regime. Because this mountain can determine if things will move forward, okay? There are important things inside. And this afternoon, the regime's official response about the mountain came, and it's also a gem. Pay attention. The spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Iran declared that there is no nuclear activity at the facility at Pickaxe Mountain. There is nothing there. And he said that the American focus on this location is just a pretext, an excuse to justify destruction. And now think with me for a moment, guys, because the math doesn't add up. If there's nothing inside, then why did the military command of the regime itself warn on the same day after Peter's statement that hitting this place would mean setting the entire region on fire? No one promises to spread fire across the world to protect a tunnel that has nothing inside, an empty tunnel. It's the same pattern I've been showing you for days. They deny it with words and protect it with threats. The denial in practice only put an even brighter spotlight on this mountain. Just what you've seen so far, I think it's already worth your like. Guys, so do your part there, and I'll do mine here. Hit the thumbs up, hit the like button. And if you're not subscribed yet, which I know you're not, guys, subscribe now and turn on the notification bell because this story is changing by the minute. And it's the bell that lets you know there's a lot of important stuff. Don't leave, guys, there's too much important stuff. Now let's talk about Trump because yesterday he talked a lot, as always. And every sentence he says, we always say it's a piece on the chessboard, right? The first sentence is about stopping now. They're already talking about the 10 days of Afsaka, 10 days of pause, right? Of ceasefire. Remember that? He said the following: if we abandon the confrontation with Iran now, it will take them 20 to 25 years to recover. We haven't finished the job. We're not ready to leave at this stage. End quote. And then he followed up with a direct provocation to Iran. He said that the Iranians haven't seen anything yet. And this is the second sentence. It's this one here. I confirm here what I've been saying since last week. Trump publicly admitted that there are behind-the-scenes talks with Iran happening right now. He said that the Iranians are insisting on meeting with him and that he has no interest in this meeting unless they are ready for a serious conversation. He also said that they want this to end because they are suffering heavy losses. Third sentence, the warning about the ships. He warned that if Iran continues targeting commercial vessels, the response will be 10 times stronger. And he stated that the blockade in the Strait of Hormuz remains firm. In other words, no Iranian ship enters and no Iranian ship leaves. And there was also a fourth element that he reveals, showing how he sells this confrontation to the American public. Trump made a comparison of numbers. He listed, several previous wars. Afghanistan cost 2,000 American lives in 20 years Iraq, 4,600 lives in 9 years Vietnam, more than 58,000 lives. Korea, more than 36,000 lives. And this confrontation with Iran, according to him, 4 months of confrontation, 18 casualties. The message behind the numbers is very clear. He's telling the average American that this is a low-cost operation in terms of lives compared to the previous ones. You may agree or not with this way of counting, but you understand his move, right, folks? He's shoring up public support here so he can continue this war until the end. So much so that he said the situation in the Strait won't affect the midterm elections, and the costs have also shown up on the military side. Hegseth himself revealed that so far this confrontation has already cost, write this down folks, $37.5 billion to the United States. That's a lot of money, folks. That's a lot of money that a war consumes. Look at the amount of money, $37 billion. And he also made an assessment about the state of Iran that's worth noting. Peter said, quote, I admit that they still have capabilities, no doubt, but the damage they've suffered puts them in the worst military situation they've ever experienced. It's not just me saying they have capabilities. Peter himself says it, guys. I admit that they still have capabilities, no doubt. Did you get that? I didn't make this up, okay? He also agrees with the same thing I said because he knows more than I do, right, guys? Of course, right? They have information we don't, but a report released the same day casts doubt on their assessment. I'm not hiding that from you. The Wall Street Journal published, citing military analysts from within the Iranian government, the American government, and satellite images, that Iran has restored part of its missile capabilities. According to the report, the regime has resumed operations at some underground missile facilities and continues to fire from those facilities at American forces and their allies. Even though Washington insists this capability is greatly reduced, just yesterday a missile was launched from those mountains. It came from there, folks. Directly from a place already attacked several times, they reopened the destroyed gates and are firing again. So, who is right here? Peter Hegseth, who talks about the worst situation in history, the situation in Iran, or the report that shows the regime rebuilding itself, rebuilding underground? In my view, both are right. Both are right, folks. And that's what's scary too. Because Iran is a shell of what it used to be. That's a fact. It's down, right? It's on the ground and that's a fact. But it learned to rebuild underground, hiding what's left and replacing what it loses. It's just like that mountain. It took a beating above and buried itself below. And the American Secretary of State summed up the diplomatic deadlock. He said the following: the United States is open to dialogue. The problem is that Iran is not being serious. In the same Senate session, Peter Hegseth made another comment. He said that Russia and China are helping Iran at different levels and helping carry out some of Iran's operations. Remember we discussed this before about Russia and China? Now Peter confirmed it too. Also, recall what I showed you yesterday about Russia splitting from within and the real issue there? So, the Godfather, even limping, is still in the game, and China, as always, is playing both sides, right? Sells defense to Bahrain and sells missiles to Iran. They're taking money from both sides. And now the international angle that almost nobody noticed, England, the authorization for the use of British bases isn't new. This already existed under the previous government under Stemmer. Remember he resigned? Stemmer had already authorized it earlier. What happened now is that the new prime minister decided, Burman, I think it's Burhan, I think that's how you say his name, decided to keep this authorization in place. The ministers there agreed to make two bases available to the Americans, an air base in England itself and Diego Garcia. Remember the island Diego Garcia? But for those who don't know, I'll explain what this island is, folks, because a lot of people have never even heard of it. It's a British island in the middle of the Indian Ocean, in the middle of nowhere, literally in the middle of nowhere, used for decades as a base by the Americans and the British, and its location is invaluable. It's from there that long-range planes reach the Middle East without depending on any Arab country's permission. They don't need to go through any Arab country. They can leave from Diego Garcia. And why is this important? Because there was a change of government in England, and the open question was whether the new government would withdraw this support and block the Americans from using that base. They didn't back down, meaning the coalition around the Americans didn't weaken with the political change. This is also a message to Tehran. And now the threats this afternoon, because the tone from the Iranian side has risen a lot in the last few hours once again. First, the former Iranian foreign minister, who last week defended invading neighbors, spoke again. There he said that the moment the Americans start a ground operation, look at that, folks, look at this threat. Iran responds by starting a ground operation against Bahrain and Kuwait, invading Bahrain and Kuwait. They've been talking about Bahrain for a long time, and now he's saying it once again. So take note of the pattern. The hardliners aren't just discussing missiles and drones anymore. They're talking about sending in ground troops. And when people start talking, when both sides start talking about ground troops, the level of the conversation is changing. Then the Revolutionary Guard issued a statement notable for its unusual tone. They declared that they are preparing a military action capable of making the United States declare a national day of mourning. This threat here, folks, is rhetorical, of course, and it's probably psychological warfare to scare the American public, but I need to put this on the record because the tone is out of the ordinary, even for them. Even for them. They've never spoken like this before. And a threat of this magnitude, whether real or not, raises the alert level in the region and also over there in the United States, right? Terrorist cells over there. Who knows what these guys are planning? And still on the topic of the regime's nervousness, look what came from France. From France, you clown. You who are supporters and passionate about France, well, pay close attention, Iran supporter, you big clown. The French foreign minister reported that Iranian authorities threatened and intimidated two French diplomats in Tehran who were taken in for questioning. Diplomat, do you understand? People, these guys have immunity, protected by all international conventions, being dragged in for questioning inside Iran. It's the old regime playbook. When outside pressure rises, they take hostages at home. Anyone leaving a diplomat in Tehran now knows the risks, right? It's good this happened with France too. Maybe it'll help them wake up from their situation. Today has already started intensely, showing that things here never slow down. This morning, Iranian sources reported 3 rounds of fire in Bushehr province down south, okay? I'll put the map here, our famous combat map. Let me put it up here. Let's discuss what's happening. These were today's attack points, where sirens sounded and things were destroyed. Bushehr is right here. Just so we can show you on the map where this region is, where the city of Bushehr is. This morning, there were reports of 3 rounds of fire in this province, in this southern region as well. And the Iranian army announced that it launched a large wave of drones against what they described as American ammunition depots and logistics facilities in Kuwait. According to information, they reportedly attacked an Amazon logistics warehouse. Okay? I don't have confirmation of that. It wouldn't be the first time, all right? It wouldn't be the first time. There was another earthquake in Kermanshah. Just noting it here, look. Another earthquake hit about 18 hours ago. This is already the 3rd earthquake since we started following events in Iran daily. And again, Kuwait, right, guys? Once again, Kuwait is paying the price up front. And now, the part I promised you at the beginning, because it just came in, About an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, it was Jordan's turn once again, right? And this time the location is of great interest to Israel as well, okay? It wasn't that American base over there. The shots were once again fired towards Aqaba, which is right next to Eilat. You already know this region here. I'll put it up here so we can take a closer look. Let me see which map is best to show. I think it's this one. Here is Aqaba. Aqaba is on this side here. Look. Here is Aqaba. Border, this white line. And here is the city of Eilat, Israel. Jordan and Israel side by side. The shots were fired in the direction of this city, which is right next to Eilat. You already know the region. Many people already know it. So I'll get straight to the point here. The Jordanian army reported the following. 6 missiles were fired from Iran, 4 were intercepted, and 2 fell in unpopulated areas. And now the important question, why Aqaba? Why has Aqaba now become an Iranian target? They never fired at Aqaba in previous wars. There had never been any attacks there, folks. There weren't, okay? Why is it a target now? Here's my take. You might disagree. No one has revealed what was hit there, and we know information takes time to emerge if it's released at all. I'm not going to make something up just to say something was hit there, but I believe the target is the radars. Precisely those radars that cover this corridor here in the Red Sea. And then guys, along with everything I told you yesterday, every radar that goes down anywhere in the region creates a gap in someone's air defenses. Do you agree? And who benefits from this hole right here in this exact spot? Who is it? Who comes around here, guys, nearby? Hey, who has already fired on Eilat from here? It's here in the corner. Who is it? The Houthis from Yemen. Because without long-range radar in this region here in Jordan, in Aqaba, right, covering this whole corridor here, look, without this radar, a shot coming from the south reaches Eilat with less warning or even no warning at all, okay? So here's the warning. That's why this region has become a target in my view. This isn't random fire in Jordan, it's clearing the way. It's Iran opening the corridor so its arm in the south, its arm, the Houthis, can strike the city of Eilat with the skies darkened. The Houthis have always launched drones from here in this direction. There was even a case involving a jet ski, which was here, look, in this area right here. These are the radars, folks, that detect what is coming here to Israel. So these radars apparently are also being destroyed, and this is not being made public. So if I'm right, the next chapter of this story doesn't come from the Gulf, it comes from the Red Sea. And there was more. The Jordanians also shot down 4 long-range Iranian drones. And here's a golden operational detail. One of those drones was spotted flying through Syria, apparently on its way to that American base in Jordan, the same one that has already been hit several times. So take a look at the route. They're going around over Syria to try to come in from a different angle. It's a cat and mouse game in the region's skies. That's what's happening now, folks. Cat and mouse in the region's skies. Here are the American planes right now. Look at how many planes have taken off from Israel. Is something about to start soon? Soon. These have the transponder on, correct? Some have it off. But make sure to note the good part. Today, the Jordanian network spotted and shot them down. They said they shot them down. As long as the radars are working, the shield works too. And now let me give you the pulse here in Israel because it sums up the week ahead. A senior Israeli security official told the local press that we are facing very critical days. That in Iran and the United States, they are deciding the next steps and that the system is on maximum alert for any developments. He also gave numbers. The internal assessment in Israel is that there is about a 50% chance of a large-scale confrontation in the short term here in Israel. 50%? In other words, flip a coin. Whatever comes up, heads or tails, that's what it's going to be from now on, folks. And there was also a signal on the observer's radar. A special American plane, one of those made for command and communications, was spotted flying to the Middle East after a stop in Europe. Another extremely important plane. This plane functions as a flying brain. It connects in real time fighter jets, ships, special forces on the ground, and command centers. Even when each operates on a different communication system, it's the one that brings all this information together, right? So they can fight together. The golden rule applies to air trackers too. This plane isn't just flying around, it didn't come to Dubai for a vacation. It only moves when a large scale operation is being prepared in the region. In other words, the machine is running while the political decision hasn't been made yet. Trump's decision to go all the way. I finished discussing the fire. Now let's talk about the behind the scenes moves that matter as much as the missiles. I'll introduce the move I've been holding back this whole video because it has to be taken together with the mountain. Trump formally approved a civil nuclear agreement with Saudi Arabia. The information was published in the Wall Street Journal and confirmed by other agencies. It's a 30-year agreement, 30 years, valued at tens of billions of dollars. American companies will build Saudi Arabia's civil nuclear program, and the arrangement shuts the door to outside competitors. Who would those outside competitors be? Russia and China. And there's also a sensitive point. The agreement could pave the way in the future for uranium enrichment, folks. Enriching uranium right there on Saudi soil. After a joint study by the Americans and the Saudis, they'll decide whether uranium can be enriched there. And here, Reuters also reported the fine print of the agreement. And they are quite controversial. According to the agency, the text does not include the so-called additional protocol of the International Atomic Energy Agency, the one that allows for stricter and broader oversight of activities. And it also doesn't include the so-called gold standard, the clause that prohibits enriching uranium and reprocessing used fuel. It's an agreement with looser controls than the model Americans have always demanded from other countries. The American Congress will have about 90 days to block this agreement. If no one blocks it in that time, it takes effect. That's where the uncomfortable question arises, shaping the 90-day debate. Washington is giving its Saudi ally exactly what it swears to prevent its Iranian enemy from having, folks. Enrichment on their own soil, okay? They want to stop Iran, but they're allowing it in Saudi Arabia, as if Saudi Arabia were so different from Iran. Critics here say this could trigger a regional nuclear arms race. Supporters will say it's better for the Americans to build it there than to let Russia or China do it. And now I want to throw a question at you because it might be the key to all of this. Could this agreement be the price that Saudi Arabia demanded to join the Abraham Accords? That's a question that not even the newspaper brought up, but I'm bringing it up here for you because in my opinion, that's exactly what it is, okay? In other words, to fully normalize relations with Israel because the Saudis never hid what they wanted in return, and having their own nuclear program has always been at the top of Saudi Arabia's list of demands, and I think that's true. This is my opinion, and you can disagree with it too. I think there was an exchange here. I believe we're seeing the payment being made right now in front of everyone, and the announcement of normalization could come soon after. Do you remember that what Saudi Arabia demanded was the recognition of the Palestinian state? I've already said the Palestinian state is being born in Gaza, and it's being born there. No one has declared it, but everyone there is Palestinian. So what would you call that? Holland, Venezuela, England? No, it's the Palestinian state. It's being born there in the Gaza Strip first. Second, their second demand was the nuclear program. Okay? The atomic program, a nuclear reactor in Saudi Arabia. So they're getting everything they demanded, and their next step now is to join the Abraham Accords. Okay? That's my opinion. And if that's true, the Middle East will change more in the next few months than it has in the last few decades. So mark that deadline again. 90 days, because this fight in Congress will be a separate chapter in this story. And before I go, our Hebrew word of the day, folks. An important word, once again, I forgot to write it here. I forgot, but oh well, I'll put it here in the comments. Konenat Eliona, okay? I said it slowly here. Konenat Eliona. That means, in Hebrew, we use this a lot, folks. A lot. Especially in the army, it's used a lot, okay? We're in Konenat Eliona. It means maximum readiness. It's the term that the security services here use when everything is on alert, on standby, waiting for the next move. So remember this expression, because it's exactly the state we're in right now here in Israel. I'm here in the Judean mountains of Israel, monitoring every movement, flight, and decision in the coming hours. And when the next piece lands on the board, I'll come back to explain it to you, putting it all together one by one in a way the mainstream media doesn't do for you. Because a single headline, like I've said before, never shows you the whole story. So subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, share it, and send it to your family group because, that's what I'm here for, folks. Exactly for that. Marcel, you're talking about God. It's obvious that Iran will pay the price. Thanks for the super sticker. Lucas said on Flow that Iran wins if the United States has no ammunition, but I don't believe it. If it were true that the United States had no ammunition, they would enter the fight. Lucas, I know that's not it. I know who you're talking about. The guy whose closest experience with combat was at a shooting range, okay? So if Israel has enough weapons to fight a war for decades, I'm telling you, for decades, what do you think the United States has over there? All this talk that they don't have it, that's fake, guys. For God's sake. Look at the size of the United States. Of course not. A weapon here, another there, maybe a precision weapon, maybe a precision weapon that's much more expensive, but the Americans are not lacking in weapons. Not at all. That's fake. Aguinaldo put it as Davi, Officer Menezes. Without oil, everything stops. Wars stop too. Without oil, there's no war. Enrique Lima, David, the United States should allow Israel to eliminate the leaders of the regime. What do you think about that? I think that's going to happen, Enrique, soon. That authorization will come soon. Trump is trying to hold Israel back as much as he can, guys, trying to keep Israel out of this new round as much as possible. And it's good that it's like that. Have you noticed that this is out of the spotlight? It's rarely mentioned in the press, but once Israel joins the war, the media will focus solely on that. Day and night, all the time, especially in the United States, to pressure Trump to stop this war. So the longer Israel stays out of the war, the better it is for the United States to keep hitting and weakening as much as they can until Israel comes in and does what needs to be done, right? Take out the leadership once and for all and end the war in a week. I prefer that Israel stays out of it for longer because that way nobody talks about us. Where are all those weapons of war kept? Rose asked. They're all stored in the desert, whether in Israel or the United States. It's all in the desert, guys. Guys, all you lefties, at least leave a like. You can leave a dislike too. There are already 10 dislikes, so go ahead, help out and add more dislikes. That also helps the channel a lot. Dislikes help too. And Israel is itching to get involved, for sure, Daniel. I have no doubt. Everybody wants to. Everybody wants to put an end to this once and for all because nobody can take it anymore. That's the truth. Nobody can take it anymore. How many years now? 3 years of war. That's enough, isn't it? That's enough. That's enough. Dubai yesterday. We returned from Dubai and the plane had to avoid Yemen, passing through Saudi Arabia and Egypt. Look, Jose Roberto just said it. You can't fly over Yemen. No flights can go through that part of Yemen. There's an air blockade in that region. Look here. See here? I'll show you guys. There's a blockade happening now in Yemen. Remember when the Houthis told Saudi Arabia there would be an air blockade? They didn't uphold it. We're seeing planes here. But in this area, look, in Abha, there are hardly any planes. There's an airport here, see? There's an airport here. And I've been tracking this. I don't see any planes landing at this airport for now. So I think this airport is closed. They threatened that any flight would be shot down. The Houthis. And now they've also warned that any ship connected to Saudi Arabia can't sail here in the Red Sea. And since they announced that, more than 8 ships have turned back, okay? Just so you understand what's happening here too. There's a silent blockade going on here. It's not getting the same attention as the blockade in the Strait of Hormuz, but it's happening right now, guys. Saudi Arabia can't get any oil out through this route or bring anything in through here. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So there's also a blockade here by the Houthis happening right now. Mortadella's door, where are they? Regis, thank you and congrats on the coverage. I've followed daily since the conflict began. This is real info. Thanks also for the super sticker, Regis Sandrino. It really supports the channel. Guys, you have no idea how much this super sticker helps because YouTube benefits from it too. When they benefit, they show the video to more people. That's how it always is. Regarding the video's length, there's nothing we can do. You can't watch it. Many channels make 8-minute videos. There are plenty out there. There are plenty. Watch the 8 or 10-minute video. You'll learn something, but not everything. There's nothing to do. I can't help you. That's the video's length. That's how much information there is. Okay? This isn't a little newspaper with just one headline that leaves you hanging, not understanding anything at all. It's the same thing as Saudi Arabia. Who read the headline? The United States just signed a contract with Saudi Arabia to build a nuclear reactor there. That's it. You don't understand what's going on behind that. I need to explain to you that this probably has to do with the Abraham Accords. If I don't cover this part here, you won't understand. You'll read about it and criticize the Americans for giving it to them, but you don't know the full story. It takes time to do and even more to explain. It's not as simple as it looks. Who finances the Houthis? Iran. Yes, Iran. Iran is behind everything. If we take down the Iranian regime, we get rid of all these problems in the region. The whole problem with the Shiite axis falling, which is Iran, the Houthis, Iraqi Hezbollah, and Lebanese Hezbollah, all of them stop receiving money the moment the regime falls. And who will support them? I don't know. Maybe some president on the other side of the world will give some money to these guys. Thank you. People always end up forgetting to hit the like button. It's always like that. Shorts, there's no content. Exactly, Roberto. There's no content. There's no way to understand it. If you want to learn, wait and listen till the end. Without patience, I can't help. That's the most I can do. This is the live stream for now. If anything major happens in the Middle East, I'll return anytime. I might do another stream later, maybe around 2 a.m. when things usually start here. So I'll have to change the live stream times to see if I can stay awake at that hour to bring you information in real time, because it usually happens around 1:30, 2 in the morning. Yesterday it was later. Yesterday it was 2:30, 3:30 in the morning, so it took even longer. So we have to call Trump and tell him to bring the attacks earlier, around 11 p.m. Local time here would be easier. While Trump is slowly realizing that only in Israel will there be a safe base, there are several planes here, they've already been moved to Israel. Several planes. Several. Look at the number of planes now. Right now, there are American planes in the region. Lots of planes are moving. Check out these two coming this way. Two more are leaving. Planes here are orbiting, right? Look over there. In other words, the war goes on, folks. The war goes on. So that's it, my friends. Sending hugs to all our friends in Israel. We'll catch up later in another live stream. Hugs, and see you then.